Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for the weekly Retro Rewind. As anyone who's seen us before knows, I'm your host, Doug, and to my right or left, or wherever he's got me, we got Mike, who, of course, always joins me, and it's always a pleasure to have him on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Man, I've been good. I've been enjoying my weekend. I've been playing. I started playing actually Immortals: Phoenix Rising. It's a very fun game. You ever get a chance to play it and you love like the Breath of the Wild style games where it's just very open world and you figure it out as you go, you're gonna love
Yeah. Yeah, I played it a little bit. Now that it's on Game Pass, I definitely want to dig my teeth, sink my teeth into it. What is it about it that you're enjoying right now?
it's just the Zelda vibes, like everything about it. You pick up an item, that item helps you traverse the world. Like I have the Icarus wings or whatever, so I can fly. You level up, you got these little pits or whatever that you go into, they're like the temples. And it's just little quick experiences. Like you'll come across something, and there's a little quick mini puzzle that you do, and you just go on. You can upgrade stuff. It's everything that I love about open world game. Um, but it's so like compressed. There's so much stuff to find at all times that it doesn't feel like it's this big open world that you're just walking forever.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
So,
and
plus Greek mythology, which I just love Greek mythology. So that's another thing that I like.
yeah, and I heard it's got quite a bit of a comedy vibe. What do you think? It's like supposed to be funny. How many hours would you say you are into it?
Um, Maybe 10, 15. I really don't know. I don't feel like I'm too far in because I just unlocked the second area that you discover. It's like Assassin's Creed in that sense, or technically Breath of the Wild did it also, where you'll go on top of these points, these viewpoints, and you can then like have the whole map unfog, and you can see everything in that area. Um, but yeah, there's some comedy to it because in the beginning, before you even start the game, before you even create your character, you're introduced to Zeus and Prometheus and their brothers, and Prometheus is telling the story, and along the way they're just like, "Oh yeah, I remember this about this god and all this stuff like that." And it's like, "Well, I don't remember. I was drunk." Like it was. It's just it's it explains a lot about Zeus when he's like, "I don't remember. I think I was drinking." Like it was. It definitely has its comedy to it. I think that's another thing that I like.
Yeah.
It's just an all around good game, and I wish that Ubisoft would make more stuff like that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think it was kind of strange to see a new IP come out of Ubisoft like that, right? Like they usually stick to their kind of tried and true stuff. So it was pretty cool to see that come out. Um, what do you think about the puzzles in the game? How are they in comparison to Zelda?
Well, I mean, they're similar. Like one of them is a like a push slide one. You push the rocks along, and it makes an image at the top. Um, there's another one that uses like a lid or a hook to play notes on. And there's all kinds of cool stuff in there. That's the reason why I like it because it doesn't feel like it's a complete Zelda ripoff. Like everything about it is like, oh, it revolves around a dungeon and an item that you didn't find only used only in that dungeon. It feels like it's its own game that is heavily inspired by Zelda, which is what made me love Darksiders because that's the exact same feel I got from Darksiders was here's this action game. It's got dungeons, it's got items, it's got everything that I love, but it's its own thing. It's not just a Zelda clone, it is a Zelda inspired game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take inspiration from any franchise, that's probably one of the best ones to do it, right? I mean,
Definitely, I think. Because I mean, even one of another one of my favorites that you know of is Metroidvanias. I mean, I don't want a game that plays 100% like Metroid. I got Metroid for that. But if you can be inspired by Metroid and do stuff like what Shadow Complex does, or Fist, or even Hollow Knight, yeah, it's going to be good.
right. So what I've been playing is The Last of Us Part 1. I went ahead and I downloaded it. I purchased it day 1 like I knew I would. You know, last night I was just like I saw a Twitter post that it was coming out, and I said, "Oh wow, I didn't realize it was coming out on the first." And I bit the bullet and I pre-installed it and I started playing it, and man, am I impressed with this game. I've got to
Now,
say,
now, did you play like the PS3 original or the PS4 remaster to compare it to, or and if you did, how would you say that it stacks up compared to those?
so I own the remaster through my PS Plus subscription. I've played maybe an hour or two of the PS4 remaster. Um, how does it compare? Because I'm about at the same place I was with the remaster. I think, I'm not the one to talk because I haven't beat it. I've only played a couple hours, but the graphics are incredible. The character models, the lighting, the environmental detail, the foliage. God, Sony just really knows. I guess Naughty Dog, they just really know how to make environments crisp, clean. One thing I've noticed is like, I feel like Sony exclusives have higher detail than Microsoft exclusives. I think when we're talking about just graphical fidelity, Sony always outdoes Microsoft. And to me, it's not even really close. You know what I mean? I feel like Sony is a true next-gen experience, whether we're talking PS3, PS4, or PS5. It always feels like those exclusives are really, truly taking advantage of the power of the system. Whereas Microsoft exclusives feel more like they're geared towards, can it be played on all these different types of PCs and all these different our older generation Microsoft consoles. So
Yeah,
I was really chomping at the bit to get my hands on this fully next gen game. We haven't really had many next gen games. It feels like many pure next gen experiences, and I think we talked about that a little bit in our last rewind. So now it feels like I'm getting a full next gen experience. I'm in. I'm all in. The story is starting off fantastic. I mean, I guess there's a reason it's considered one of the greatest games ever made and one of the greatest stories ever made.
yeah.
It starts off so emotional. Did you beat it? Did you play it?
I'm gonna kick myself because I have it downloaded, like you for PS4. I'm ready to play it, but I haven't touched it yet. And I feel bad, and that's mostly my fault because I continue to buy new games when they come out, and then of course if I see a deal on an older game, um, that's been on my list of I have to get these games at some point, and I buy it, and so my backlog just continues to backlog itself. So I'm gonna get to it one day because I do hear, especially when it was on the PS3, that it was one of the best experiences you can get on the PS3. So I would definitely want to play it.
Something I've been thinking about is it feels very pre-microtransaction, right? Like
Well, yeah, because that's when it came out, was the PS3, when that kind of stuff wasn't even heard of. So yeah,
exactly. So it's like the best part of gaming to me. It's There's nothing in here trying to get me to buy packs or skins or anything, right? It's just, here's your full-fledged experience. I even, because I bought it yesterday, I bought it a couple hours before it released. I got the pre-order bonuses, and I guess there's some extra weapon blueprints and parts to your weapons that you could use. I turned them off because I said I want to go into this and get the full pure experience. I want it to be difficult. It's a horror game, right? I want it to be difficult. So I want resource management and bullet management and stuff like that to matter. So I didn't want to get any of those pre-order bonuses or anything like that. So I'm just really excited to play a game that doesn't feel like it's trying to sell me anything,
yeah. And I mean, Phoenix Rising has that, but you can completely ignore it, which is cool because, like, yeah, you can go in there, you can go to the store, you can get, something cosmetic or whatever, but that's a completely optional part of the store that you can just ignore. You can just go in, play the game, And it's not like you're going to be going 5 or 10 minutes into the game and go, hey, by the way, your stamina's out. You want to buy more for 99. Like that's the kind of stuff that I like. And then, like I was talking about, I think in the last one that we did, where we also, well, I was playing the Inpatient on PSVR. PSVR also does that too. Where it's not in your face with microtransactions, you know. And there's nothing wrong with microtransactions. They have their place. I think they belong in like shooters, maybe even racers, whereas maybe something like that could help give you an advantage. But in a solely single player game like The Last of Us, I don't think it needs to be in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has its place. I'm totally willing. I've put money into microtransactions. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that I have purchased microtransactions before. I'll buy a battle pass here and there if I'm really enjoying the content. So, but yeah, I mean, you know me. I'm just a single player, story driven guy. So to be
Yeah.
now experiencing a very next gen version of what is considered one of the greatest single player story driven games of all time, I'm in heaven, man. And this is the kind of stuff. This is why I'm not always playing games, because part of me feels like when I do play and I fully get invested in something, it's gonna mean more and it's gonna be like a better experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I don't know if maybe it's the same for you because I kind of feel that exact same way. I love single player games, but when I invest myself in a game, like I'm in 100%. I'm going to try and experience as much of that world as possible, and it really draws me in, which is one of the reasons why I think I like single player games better is because it's easier for me to feel like, okay, I'm on a planet and I'm isolated and by myself, and I got to survive on this planet if it's just me. So, uh, yeah. And going back a little bit to what you were saying before, I think that that's the reason why I mean, I don't like the fact that they've gone from price to $70, but in some ways it feels like they're almost worth the $70 because of the amount of time and effort Sony puts into these games to make sure that they're AAA quality. Like just look at, granted, we already know it's going to be a PS4 game also, but just look at like what Ragnarok can do, and just the idea of like, and then that's going to be elevated with stuff like the Pulse 3D headset, elevated with stuff like the haptic feedback triggers and all that stuff. That's going to be an awesome experience when it comes out.
Yeah, definitely. And I've already started experiencing that with Last of Us. Just like, being able, when you're healing yourself or something, the adaptive triggers go into effect. When you're shooting, when you're just anything, when you're exploring, you could really feel that the dual sense, and it enhances the experience. I don't know, I don't want to get into console war stuff, but I own the Series X and I own the PS5. I think Game Pass is a better value than what PS offers with PlayStation Plus, of course. And I think Game Pass is what keeps me playing my Xbox a lot.
Uh-huh.
But just pure experience, if I could choose to purchase the same game on each console, I'm probably going to go for PS5.
It's really going to depend upon. I mean, yes, I want to give love to all my systems. That's one thing because I do own them all. I've owned them all probably every generation since the GameCube. I have to go back and get some of the older ones that I don't have. But the thing is that yes, because I mean, one of the reasons why I love Nintendo, I know the franchises I'm going to get. Like whenever they drop the next console, there's going to be a Mario, a Zelda, probably a Metroid, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, the big hitters that we know are going to come. Same thing with Sony. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get another Uncharted. I really hope that Naughty Dog goes back to that franchise and either, you know, maybe brings Nathan Drake back into the fold or maybe continues with another one of the thieves or something. But to see another Uncharted run on the PS5 would just be awesome. But, back in the day, it was like, okay, we're going to get God of War. We're going to get Final Fantasy. We're going to get, like the Resident Evils. I know that they're cross-platform now. But you knew what you were going to get. And especially back in the old days when we got like Jack and Daxter and, the Sly Cooper games and stuff, you knew what you were going to get when it came to Sony. Microsoft just it's good that they bring everybody in because I think that that is a very good way of doing business. Because the more,
Right.
I mean, it's worked for Nintendo. They bring in third parties, and people are just impressed by like, I can't believe this game is running on this thing. But like you were talking about, because they also make Windows, it really just kind of feels like you're just playing a PC almost. So that, like, there's not really a whole lot going on. They do have some stuff with their triggers, it seems like, but um, it's not as innovative as the haptic feedback feels, or even like the HD Rumble feels, where Nintendo does use that. Um, which I'm hoping that they use more of, because I think now that we have haptic feedback being a really big popular thing, maybe they'll be more inspired to use HD Rumble and have a similar experience. But yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that I love. I mean, I know that exclusives sell consoles. People don't want to have exclusives because everybody wants to play. I mean, I think that's something that I've talked about before in one of my videos. It's good to have a game like Minecraft that's everywhere, so anybody can jump in and just play. Or no one has to go off and buy 5 different Xboxes to play the kind of thing. But look at you, Last of Us. If you had not had a PS5 and you wanted to play The Last of Us, you probably would have picked that up just to play it. So I think that in some ways exclusives are good. And yeah, I mean, Sony has always done exactly like what you're talking about. I think like, I'm probably not going to play the PS5 for a while. And I play a game and I love it. And, you know, they always draw me back. Nintendo always draws me back. I love being a gamer. It's an exciting time because I feel like we're going to finally start getting the games. I think you and I touched upon that before. 2023 might just be the year for games to finally start revving up and going somewhere, because we got Callisto Protocol, we know in December, we got God of War, and then of course all those games that they showed off. I think Microsoft's big one's probably going to be that Starfield. But yeah, everybody's got something coming out next year that's going to be a big hitter. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, so something that we heard about coming out soon that was kind of breaking news this week is the new Assassin's Creed. And I know that's something that you kind of wanted to talk about. Off cam, you were talking a little bit about how you said it was going to be a large open world. Where did you hear that? And what are we expecting?
I actually heard, and I'm going to see if I can maybe pull it up right now on the interwebs, but I actually heard the opposite. I think it came from somebody directly from Ubisoft that said that they wanted to focus on it like being more like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 were, where they're kind of more condensed. Like the city can still be a big explorable area, but it's not this huge open world game. It's just like what was it? What was the one that was in Egypt? Was that Odyssey or was
Origins?
Origins. So it was like what Origins was just this big openness.
Same with Odyssey, same with Valhalla. They've really gone. I think the success of Witcher 3 is what fueled them, what inspired them to make Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. They kind of tried to put it into that kind of Witcher 3 style of game. But you're right, I have heard, we now know that it's Assassin's Creed Mirage, right? And we're going to get some more information on it September, I think, 10th with the Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah, because if I correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Ubisoft also do the Prince of Persia games? And so I think in some ways it's a big open world Prince of Persia. So
yeah, it's set in Baghdad, I believe. We'll get more information, but I believe it's a Middle Eastern or Arabic, setting.
It is.
I believe
Baghdad.
It's going to be in the 800s, and it's going to be a prequel to basically most of the games in the series. I believe Assassin's Creed 1 was set in the 1100s, and this is going to be set in the 800s. I'm excited. I'll tell you what. I haven't been excited for an Assassin's Creed in a long time, but the idea of a
this one.
Yeah, next gen Assassin's Creed 1 basically is what we're getting. I'm all in on that. So
or
for the
even
first
two,
time,
or even a more open Assassin's Creed 2, because Assassin's Creed 2, um, still to this day, is my absolute favorite. Like it was just such a good game. Like because Assassin's Creed 1 was good, but it was testing the waters on that. So it was playing a little bit safe, but 2 kind of just embraced it. Um, and I need to get back to them because I haven't played the more open world ones because again I kind of like the more linear experience, and so this might be the game that gets me back into Assassin's Creed, which is good because I've been looking for an excuse to get back into Assassin's Creed because I like that series also. But yeah, I think they said that it's going to be more, like I said, kind of closed off and uh, or maybe even have like an open zone where like this part of the city is open and then later in the story it opens up another area and then that's something like that would be good because yeah, I like the way that Origins looked and I like the way that Valhalla looked. From what I hear from Valhalla, and again, haven't played it, so I can't vouch. I can only go based on what I've read and heard. Is that there's oftentimes it's got too much going on because they just try to throw so much at you and keep you busy, and that's almost kind of off-putting in a way. Uh, and then just the sheer amount of fact that I think they only went with the open world idea because they wanted to do something different. Because I think up until was it Syndicate? I think it was Syndicate because that was one that I think had that big blowout. It was just like you could see the people's faces and stuff. Um, they decided, okay, we're going to take a year off, we'll create a whole new Assassin's Creed experience, and they came back with what they have now, and that's worked for them so far. But I think it's about time to maybe switch back to it, like revisit that idea, have something that's just kind of a quick 20, 30, 40-hour experience, and that's it.
yeah, I think that's the sweet spot. I think around 20 to 30, maybe 40 on the high end is the sweet spot for me. You know, as a father, someone with a full-time job, someone with other interests.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've talked much about how much I enjoy wrestling and fantasy books, and I only got so much time. So if you're gonna want to,
Exactly.
and I think gamers are getting older, right? You know, the gaming audience is
Yeah.
aging as time goes on. We're all getting older. We're all getting families. Now, of course, the kids and everything, those are going to be they're still gaming. My 6-year-old daughter and 4-year-old daughter are gaming, for goodness sake. But there's a huge audience of gamers that are parents that are, you know, that came from the Super Nintendo, NES, Super Nintendo days. That's me, right? My first console was the NES.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want me to buy your game, I need to know that I could be done with it, you know, pretty quick, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I did definitely follow you on that 100%. I mean, you know that I'm a father. I've got kids to look after, a wife, I've got a full-time job, I've got a house to take care of, I've got a lot of stuff to do in my time, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the long game. I mean, I just basically dropped 100 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for crying out. But after a certain amount of time, it starts to wear thin. Like around the 80 to 90 hours, kind of like I just want to get this over with to move on to the next thing because there's so many games that come. When I was younger, I could do that. Like I remember when I was younger, I would get like one game a year for my birthday because that's the only time that I could get it, and sometimes I could ask for it. And so that game needed to last. And so if I got a game like Mega Man X, I would play that game. I would learn every single secret about it, every single shortcut, every single way that I could beat the bosses because that's all I had for a whole year.
Right.
So, but now that month, what am I going to play now? Okay, I beat that quick. What am I, go back to my backlog or whatever, like I talked about. And there's always something to do. And then if you're not doing that, you're reading. I'm watching, TV shows, superhero stuff, watching whatever, catching up, cleaning, yeah, just doing whatever life has me doing at that time. So a lot of times the weekend that I get off from work is about the only time that I really have to dedicate to like, okay, I'm going to sit down and play for 8 to 10 hours and dedicate to something. And I don't want that to be dragging out for potentially 6 7 months because there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's your thing and you absolutely love a game, because
Yeah.
I know people like I know people that they do World of Warcraft and they have like thousands of hours in that game. And if you love Warcraft and you want to dedicate 1,000 hours to it, go ahead. That's your thing. Do you? But it's not my cup of tea. I don't have the time to dedicate to a big, massively multiplayer online game that wants to suck 500 600 hours out of me. I mean, that was one of my complaints that I think I told you about with Starfield was like it looks like it's a good game, but it also looks like one of those games that wants me to invest the next 5 years of my life into it, and I don't know if I want
Right.
to give it that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's going to be a God, and I don't want to sound like that. We're on a gaming channel, right? We are excited about
Yeah,
these games and we're excited about the development of large open world games. But it's just
yeah,
our
definitely.
cup of tea has changed, right? Our we've acquired a taste for, I think, smaller smaller experiences, which is
Well, what I
strange
think,
because I spend so much. We do spend a lot of time gaming. So what's the difference between playing three 20-hour games versus one 60-hour game, right? But I think
right?
just as I get older, it's easier for me to drop off in the middle of, like in my 50th hour, it's easier for me to drop off and try to do something else than it is for me to get excited about, continued smaller experiences.
I think it's just going to depend upon the grind that the game has. Like Xenoblade has a grind that I love. Like yeah, after especially when you get to the last stage of the game, it starts to seriously throw a fight at you every couple of minutes and it explode really quick. So you're like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna sit here and let this thing auto fight. I'm not even gonna try because I'm already like 20 levels higher than anything that's in that part anyway. So I'm just gonna destroy it in a couple of minutes. But after a while, that monotony gets to you. And again, for a game that, because I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix Rising does this after a while because it's open world. There's a lot of stuff to explore, but after a while, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's another chest, it's another, what, another, and I'm just going to get tired of it because yes, we are a gaming channel. I completely 100% agree with you. But I think that that's one of the issues of being a gaming channel. Just like when you do your wrestling channel, you'll have to watch probably everything. So you got
Right.
to watch you got to watch every single show. You probably got to either watch or know what happens in every single pay per view to discuss it, and that is a lot of time. That's basically a full time job in its own. So I love being a gaming channel. I love talking about gaming content, but at the same time, it's like, but if I want to talk about this game and this game and this game, I have to actually play them. I can't be focusing on game X right, and I'm going to spend the next 500 hours doing this. When it's like, oh yeah, but what about Sonic? But what about Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out? What about this and that? And I'm excited for Elder Scrolls 6. I love the Elder Scrolls series. High fantasy is more my thing anyway. But do I really want to dedicate 1,000 hours to that game when something else is going to come out and I can talk about that and my experience with that and enjoy that? It's like watching a movie. Like you can watch a romantic comedy and enjoy it, and then you can go and watch a fantasy film and enjoy it, and then go watch a horror film. And you can do all that in one day. But do you
Yeah.
want to sit there and dedicate your whole day to watch the Lord of the Rings extended edition, all three movies that take like 50 hours to watch, and that's all you do?
Right. You've only experienced one series. And yeah, just looking at Starfield and the scope of it, it's I can't imagine that it's not going to be one of the most wide scoped games of all time, right? I mean, Bethesda's going to have to come out swinging after the failure that was Fallout 76. Um, they've got some like what's the word I'm looking for? They've got some making up to do with the gaming audience, right? they've been kind of a laughing stock recently, and
Mm-hmm.
you would think that the way they're going to respond to that is trying to make the biggest, most content packed RPG that's ever existed. And what could be bigger than having an RPG with a ton of planets, right, to explore? And some handcrafted, some procedurally generated. But still, how much time can you just sink into landing on new planets and exploring these new places? And, you know,
Yeah,
it.
and then how much of that, I've said this before, I'm probably going to say it 100 more times, so I apologize to anyone that's heard me say it before. But I really do get a No Man's Sky feel out of this game. Yeah, it's ambitious. It looks like it's going to be very ambitious and do a lot. But how much of that content is going to be there in the beginning? How much of it is going to be there and do like a Cyberpunk 2077 where it comes out rough, but then a year or two later, it's great and it's the game that should have been? Or how much of it, because you said it's going to be procedurally generated at some parts, how much of that procedurally generated stuff is going to be the exact same looking planet every time? So those are just my concerns, because sometimes having something that's too ambitious can actually hurt you.
Yeah, how much of it is just traversing kind of empty terrain, finding different resources, scanning different resources or creatures, um, gaining experience that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus landing on a planet, finding interesting races that you could communicate with and do interesting quests with, and have like that freedom. I think that's what was so special about Skyrim is the dungeons may feel procedurally generated or copy paste sometimes, but as far as the world is concerned, and going to each city or each town or finding just a little cottage off the side of the road, there's usually something interesting everywhere. And I
Yes.
worry about Starfield that there's not going to be something interesting everywhere you go, and that'll kill me pretty early on if I go to a couple planets in a row and I don't find anything like at least like an amazing weapon or an amazing set of armor or something. I need to find something or an amazing quest line. Hopefully they've got a way to give us some really good quest lines on these procedurally generated planets, some really good um, gear, weapons, ways to just really feel like it's worth it. Because if they're
Or
able to make
just,
it worth it, then I'm in, right? Then I'm
yeah,
okay with spending the that amount of time.
or just a way to dick around, because that's one of my favorite things to do. I did that in Oblivion a lot. Um, um, and even with Skyrim, I just dicked around a little bit. Like I would start to like see how far away I can get and launch an arrow at somebody, and if they would see me and come after me, and like just mess with people, So how much of it is messing around and fun that you can have, and how much of that is exactly what you said, just going to be monotonous stuff that after a while is going to get old. It's like, why even go to the next planet? It's just going to be the same crap I'm doing now.
And how's it going to compare to the current No Man's Sky? Because my
Yeah,
understanding, though I haven't played it recently, is that it has significantly improved and that
it
it's
has.
much closer to the experience that they were kind of, you know, offering in the beginning before it came out. When
Exactly. Yeah.
so, is it just going to be more? Is it just going to be like I'd rather play No Man's Sky if I'm going to be playing a game where I'm going to procedurally generated planets and exploring and stuff? Does No Man's Sky have more content that has had more time to develop and more time to perfect the formula? Um, yeah, I get a lot of No Man's Sky vibes out of it as well. And I don't know how I feel about that yet, especially if they don't do it better than No Man's Sky. And how could you? That game's been out for what, 6 years now? I think that was 2016, maybe? No, 2019.
Something like that. And but the good part is you have the blueprint now, which I think means that they'll be able to do better. You know, perfect example that I use is with the Nintendo. They do come out with hybrid console, they have something like the Iron Neo, they have Steam Deck, they have something that can show them a blueprint to something better. And so I think the mistakes of No Man's Sky is something that Bethesda can use to go, okay, we're not going to do that. And we're going to make sure that we have this in the beginning, or at least relatively close to the launch of the game, so that way they don't make those same mistakes that some of these people have.
Right. And just looking at the trailer, you know, the stuff that we got from Starfield, some of these locales do look very interesting, and they have different vibes. I'm seeing some cyberpunk type vibes. I'm seeing some, you know, frontier world type stuff, some more Western vibes. It feels like they're, if it is, and if they have a bunch, I would be okay with a lot of procedurally generated stuff if we have enough handcrafted environments to explore and handcrafted quest lines to explore, right? So
Yes.
if they give us a bunch of really cool handcrafted environments and cities and really good, well-written quests, and then a shoot ton of procedurally generated stuff that feels more optional but could possibly enhance the experience, I'm in. But if it's more weighted towards just the procedurally generated exploration and stuff, then I'm probably not gonna wanna play that too much.
Yeah, it's really going to depend because, I mean, my understanding of No Man's Sky, from what I've seen from people playing it, is it's mostly mining. So it's like you just go in, you mine this material, you do whatever, and then you leave. If that's all it's going to be, I'll just play the main quests. Like, I don't want to sit there and, like, because that's something that's bothered me about JRPGs and a lot of other games. You got to have, if you just continue, like, just fetch this, and go get this, or mine this 5 times, that's going to get old after a while. That's going to make me lose interest. You know, I'm not trying to diss any of these games at all. Because, I mean, you and I, we have a huge passion for gaming.
Right.
But just because of all the stuff that's pulling my attention, you know, TV shows, you know, movies, whatever, and especially if I'm going to start watching wrestling content in order to be a part of your channel, then that's something else that's just going to take up more of my time. I, again, can't sit there and spend 5 hours doing the exact same side quest 15 times. I got to do something different. So I want to see more of the game. I imagine that we're going to probably see more here soon. We got, another 3 or 4 months until the game show comes up, Video Games Awards. Maybe they'll show up more then, and we'll have a good idea of hopefully what the game actually is. Because you can always make a game look good when it comes out. When you first show it, yeah, the game's going to look good.
Right. I'm not falling for that anymore. You know, Watch Dogs 1 is a great example. Do you remember how Watch Dogs looked when it first came out?
Yes.
I mean, how excited was everybody, and then how disappointed was everybody when it finally came out? I mean, it was not even close to the same as what they showed. So it's like, I'm really kind of over seeing games years out.
Yes.
That's why, and we've talked about it before, Xbox saying everything that you're seeing is coming in the next year. I'd rather have that. I'd rather you save the reveal for when it's closer to being ready. You know, I don't want another Cyberpunk situation where it's like, oh wow, the Witcher 3 devs are building this amazing Cyberpunk RPG and it's going to be phenomenal and we're waiting years and years and years and years and years, and then it's at a fever pitch and we're ready for it and then it disappoints. I'd rather them have announced Cyberpunk 6 months prior to release, and that having been maybe released this year, you know?
Yeah, because that's where I think everything lies. You know, it's a weird double-edged sword. I've experienced it many times throughout my years of covering this stuff and just watching games. I wasn't really fooled by Watch Dogs. I kind of figured that looks a little bit too good for a 360, but so I wasn't really fooled by it per se, but I like the way that I don't want to just keep making it seem like, I mean, yeah, I'm a Nintendo fanboy, so I guess I avoid it. I just like the way Nintendo does it. You know, like I remember one thing that they did with Star Fox was Shigeru Miyamoto said that he's got a special project that he's working on, but he can't tell us what it is. And in the background was a TV that was blurred, and you could barely make out an O-wing. They didn't talk about Star Fox Zero until it was basically almost ready. And they've done the same thing. They've done the same thing with games. I mean, Breath of the Wild 2 is the exception because I think they had intended for it to be ready earlier than what the pandemic made things better. But usually because I mean, look at what they did at Bayonetta. They kind of said, yeah, Bayonetta 3 is coming. We didn't hear anything about it for probably 2 or 3, 4 years. And then when they announced it last year, they said it's coming, and it's coming 2023. And then when they showed it again, so usually by the time they show off a game, they're like, this game's coming out probably for the next 6 months. So.
Well, did you hear that? I guess the next event Nintendo has is going to be very Zelda forward, I heard, or I don't know what the terminology was, but it's going to be very Zelda focused. Did you hear that?
I did. And, I'm very excited, but, I'm also being cautiously optimistic, I guess is the best word, because, we usually get a direct every September, and so that's something that I think is going to be good to do, and, I definitely want to have something to talk about with that, but are we going to get the actual name of the game? That's because the name of a Zelda game is usually going to be about 99% of the time a giveaway as to what's going on in the game. Like Twilight Princess. Well, there was a Twilight Realm, and Minda was the Twilight Princess. There you go. It was all about her story. Like it was the Wind Waker. Oh, here's the wand. It's a baton. It's a Wind Waker. That's the instrument. Like it's usually giving you an idea of what the game is. So, are they going to show off like actual dungeons? Or are they going to show off? It's going to be exciting. I definitely want to learn. But just like with what we were just talking about with Watch Dogs and Cyberpunk, I'm going to be optimistic until I actually see it. But I think that we will, because I think that, let's see, if they do it in September, that would probably be about March that they would launch it, which is going to be right around, I think, the 5th or 6th anniversary of when Breath of the Wild came in. So that would make a ton of sense. And that would be about 6 months ago. But getting back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, it's a double-edged sword. Because if you show a game too early, you run that risk of getting people way too excited. And then this isn't the stuff that we thought that it was going to be, because they had to like scrap it or reboot it or do whatever, like what they've done with Metroid Prime 4. They announced it and they showed nothing. It's been supposedly redone in development many times. But if you show it off, too late in the game, do you have enough time to advertise it properly hyped? I do like the way you and I have agreed on that.
Right.
There you go. Sometimes it's good to just wait and show these games off when they're ready to be shown off, because in that way you got a polished game. You got it closer to when it's ready to be developed, so you're not showing off concept art or talking about what if. Because like one thing I can give an example on is Perfect Dark, and what they showed off Perfect Dark. I like playing Perfect Dark. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with Perfect Dark. But all they showed us a cinematic trailer with some interesting stuff going on. How much of that is the final game?
Right.
If it's going to be even made at all, because supposedly now it's in development hell and it might not be coming out at all. I don't know. So to me, it just seems like it's best to show off a game when it's close to ready to be done. That way, one, you can officially announce it. You don't have to have people like, is this game in development still? What you can say, yes, it's going to be coming out by this time. And if you need to delay it a little bit, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, definitely. So what else do you got?
Well, something that we talked about earlier was Assassin's Creed, and we kind of talked a little bit about open world games. So I kind of had this idea do we have too many open world games? Because I feel like that's the thing now. Is everybody wants to be, a big open world game. Um, but what happened to the stuff that we grew up with? Like what we're talking about, the more linear stuff. Because I remember I was at a GameStop one time and I picked up a game, and the person said, this game's linear, right? I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm picking it up. Because that's what I want. I don't want, a game that's going to take me again thousands of hours. So is that something that is like too much at this point? Because like we just mentioned with Starfield and No Man's Sky, those games are very similar. They both take place in space. They're both open world. You can supposedly do whatever you want with them. Are there too many of them at this point? So we just have like maybe one big fantasy series, like say Elder Scrolls is that big fantasy series that gives you that one big space epic, and there's one big maybe like a cyberpunk futuristic game, and like that's it. We don't have to have every single game be open world.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really a big advocate for what does the developer want. I'm not a fan of publishers coming in and saying, you're going to make an open world game, right? You're going to make this giant open world. That feels like what Ubisoft did with Assassin's Creed. It feels like they said, well, look at how good Witcher 3 was. We want something similar. And then out popped Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla, right? So I want it to be up to the developer. So I'm okay with an open world game. I'm okay with a million open world games as long as it's a passion project and not something where it's a developer or a publisher saying, this is what we want. We need you to pump out open world game X because it's going to sell like hotcakes and we need it to have 100 hours and we want it to have microtransactions. I'm okay with big open world games, but it needs to be because the developers or the creative director or the lead designer had a really good idea and they're really passionate about it and they get their team on board and they're all in, right? And it doesn't feel like they're just in a slave factory pumping away this next open world game that's going to be meaningless and be forgotten in the next year or two. So I would prefer more linear, story-driven, single-player, focused experiences, which is what I'm hoping Mirage is. But I'm okay with open world games as long as they're not forced.
Exactly.
I'm okay with Horizon. That's a passion project, you could tell. I'm okay with God of War being a big open world game because that's a passion project. So I'm okay with them. Are there too many? I think, like you said, you went into the GameStop and they said, hey, this is linear. For a long time, linear became a bad word. I mean, I remember several years ago they were talking about the death of single player. Are single player games dead? Why would anybody ever develop a single player game again? But then you look and you say Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Last of Us 1 and 2. I mean, these are all the games winning the awards for best game, right?
Yeah, and in that same year, I always kind of laughed at it a little bit. That same year, they say, "Hey, our single player game's dead." Two of the biggest selling single player games came out that year. One of them was one you just mentioned, Horizon Zero Dawn, and then the second one was probably the best selling game that year and the best selling Zelda game ever, Breath of the Wild, and it's a completely single player game.
And it's open.
And of course, you and I both know how much Zero Dawn just blew my mind with the story. So it was just the kind of thing that, yeah, sometimes that's best because there's nothing with a multiplayer game. I don't mind jumping into a Halo match every now and then. I don't mind, doing a Mario Kart online or something. But a lot of times the best experiences are the games I'm having now with like Xenoblade 3 and with Phoenix Rising and now you with Last of Us, where you are in that game. You don't have somebody who's popping up doing weird. Like I tried Destiny 2 and I enjoyed Destiny 2, but after a while I just got trying to do it. Here comes me on something else and like they've done shot the thing and killed it or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't
So
want to do this now.
I'm much more inclined to play a single player open world game. I'd rather have open world games than shared world games.
Yeah,
There's nothing I hate more than a shared world game. I'm so, and it's just sad. Like, I would love Destiny. I think it's got some of the smoothest FPS gunplay. I think it's got some of the coolest or not customer, um, character design, weapon design, armor design, world detail. It's really great. And then I get on and I see a bunch of people running around, totally breaking my immersion. I'm all about immersion. So I'm okay with open world games if they're immersive and then they're single player. Forgive me. I'm sorry, everybody, but shared world games to me, look at Anthem. You know how much I love BioWare? Knights of the Old Republic is my favorite game of all time. Uh, Mass Effect, one of my favorite games of all time. And then they go and do this shared world looter shooter mumbo jumbo and completely shoot themselves in the foot and ruin their reputation. So
yeah.
I just don't want to see shared world games.
I think it's just going to depend upon how that's done. Because if you and I would play together, like what we were talking about doing, as Dusk Falls, where you're sort of playing together and you're going along with the storyline together. That's one thing. If it's something where, and forgive, go ahead and stop the video right now, I guess, because I'm probably going to have people come after me with pitchforks. But one of the reasons why I don't care for the From Software games is because of stuff like that. Well, I don't want to be, and I don't know how much people can just jump into your game. I think you have to invite them in. But I don't want to feel like, okay, I'm going to play this boss, I'm going to beat this person, and then somebody comes in and beats it for me. That's going to completely take away what I thought. Because I'm supposed to beat it. I'm supposed to be the badass. I'm supposed to be the one to win and take care of it. And to have somebody else do it for me, it just doesn't feel the same as when, like, hey, you just conquered this whole game, you knocked out the last boss, you've done it all by yourself on hard mode. Congratulations. Like it's a pretty different experience. So
I'm just trying to find my pitchfork because I'm going to join them. Because Elden Ring is so good in so many ways, right?
Is it one of those things where you have to invite them in, though, or is this shared world where they're there?
They're not there. You do have to summon them. So it's basically like a summon system, and you could turn it off. If you want to, you could turn it off and play it single player. I played it completely single player. What happened with me, so I played Elden Ring. I was throwing myself at Margit, or Margit. I don't know how you say it. Whatever. One of the first bosses, right? The light leads you to this boss. And I was throwing myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to summon. So I summoned, defeated Margit. First time with a summon, restarted the game. I was already about 25 hours in. It felt so cheap to me. Because,
exactly. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. So you can turn it off, and I'll tell you, Elden Ring, 10 out of 10, Game of the Year. There's 0% chance Elden Ring doesn't win Game of the Year this year. I don't care how good God of War Ragnarok is. I don't care how good Callisto Protocol is. I don't care how good anything that comes out is. It's not going to match the Elden Ring quality, I don't think. So I'm still going to beg you to play Elden Ring. If you could throw 100 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles, you could at least fire up Elden Ring and drop, a good 40 to 50 and at least give it a good shot, because I really do believe it's the most accessible FromSoft game. Just the world design, the way you could just go anywhere at any time. Oh, you run into this boss and it's a wall for you and you can't get over the wall. Go off over here and there's a million other things to do and things to find and areas to explore and weapons to collect and armor and little side quests. And so I gotta say, get the pitchfork and the torches. You better lock up your house because I'm coming.
Oh, I would definitely try it. I mean, you've told me about it many times before, and yeah, the fact that it's more accessible, I think, is going to get it to me because I have genuinely tried, and I think I did Demon's Souls, the original one on the PS3, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. Like I tried, and they were just not accessible for me. Like this is kind of like I don't want to sit there and have to do the same loop. It was like I'm going to shoot this to defeat it, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to the bonfire and then do that whole thing over just to level up and then go to whatever the next boss is, and the boss slaughters me in 5 seconds or something like that. It wasn't something that worked for me, but I should probably give it another shake because it's been a while. Those were early From Software games. They probably hadn't quite gotten it down yet. It's probably gotten better, and who knows? My mind has been changed before. I used to have a big issue with first-person shooter games. Now I don't mind them, depending. I've even told you about how I thought to Final Fantasy, and probably now back into Assassin's Creed, even though for a while all the Assassin's Creed games were the exact same game, just with a different skin. So, but again, that's just going to add more to my playtime, and that's going to add more to my backlog. So we'll have to wait and see. I definitely do want to give it.
I think you should. I think you should. I know exactly what you're talking about. In Demon's Souls, I can't tell you how many times I ran the same loop, right? Defeating the same enemies, and in Dark Souls 1 as well. Running that loop, defeating the same enemies, dying, and then having to run that loop again, dying, and then having to run that loop again. That's where Elden Ring turns the entire formula on its head. It's just as difficult, but you're never stuck. And you never have to run the same loop again. You can leave, you could go level up, and then you come back and you kick that level's ass. Whatever you were running that wall was, you come back, you got better weapons, you've leveled up, you got better spells, you've developed a little more skill in terms of your dodge abilities and your blocking abilities and when to strike and enemy patterns and things like that. So it's just this constant build of feeling like you're getting better. Constantly feeling like you're getting better and feeling like you're making progress. There's never a stall in progress in Elden Ring for me. And I mean, you could play through the game 3 times, put a few hundred hours into it, and still find something new. That's just how huge and dense this game is. There's some bosses that are kind of copy paste. I think it makes sense for the story, but again, like you're always going to be able to leave and find something fresh and exciting, and I think you would like it. I really do. I think that it would change your mind. I think there's a reason. I think Elden Ring in its first several months outsold all other FromSoft games, that have had years and years to sell, and I think it's because of that accessibility factor. So it's perfect for you. I think it's perfect. If you found any enjoyment at all in Bloodborne or Demon's Souls or Dark Souls, combat or just the challenge, but it just became too much, then Elden Ring is perfect.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it was. Like when I first started doing Dark Souls, I really enjoyed it. It was actually kind of fun because like, oh man, I made some silly mistake. You do better, and it was just that. But after a while, the learning curve got, at least in my opinion, it got like I remember I did something specifically where it's like this is the strongest game in this is the strongest weapon in this area, and I had to go do something with a dragon. I had to keep shooting it from a distance to get its tail and turn it into a sword. And then that weapon later on then just basically was completely useless against enemies. And then I would have somebody that jumped into my game and like slaughtered me. So I don't know how they managed to get into my game, but they just jumped into my game and they slaughtered me. So it's like, yeah, it lost that interest quick. But if I have to invite them in, that's different.
Right.
But everything that you're talking about is what I like about Xenoblade 3 because, yeah, it starts off interesting. The story starts to pick up, and by the time you're really able to explore anywhere that you want, you start encountering enemies that are like, oh crap, this thing's like level 70 and I'm level 50. I'm going to run off, I'm going to do something else. then you come back and you fight it. I just now, after about 98 hours of playing the game, have just now found out about these really super hard. They're almost like extra bosses. They're called like the strongest or whatever. They're basically over level 100, and they're like the strongest enemies you can find in the game, and they're completely hidden. And just it almost got me thinking like this is starting to sound like a Dark Souls boss. Like this is gonna be one of those kind of things that's gonna be like routine memorization, and just yeah. So I might like it. You know,
I
like
think you would. And I think
that's
one of the cool things about it is there is no leveling like that as far as enemies are concerned. You'll find extremely powerful enemies, but guess what? You could be a level 0 with just a club and a loincloth, and you could beat any enemy in the game. And there's players that do it, right? They do no-hit runs where they play the entire game without getting hit once, and they defeat the whole game at level 0 with just a loincloth and a club, you know? And it's like, because you can get that level of skill. And that's that's what lends to the freedom. Once you start feeling confident in your abilities, you're like, you know what? I could go anywhere and I could win. Like, I know that I could do this, you know. And you're gonna die a few times, but you're gonna learn their patterns, and you're gonna feel empowered. And then you're just gonna be good enough to do whatever you want in these games. And there's just so much content, man. I'm telling you, like. It's so rewarding, too, to defeat these bosses and to finally make it through. And the summon system and the magic system is just so much improved from previous games. And they really added systems in there where you could, you know, summon some companions, summon some ghost companions, basically, that come in and help you that aren't other players, that are more just single-player focused summons that help you through the game and stuff that you didn't have in previous Dark Souls games. And it's just really, I don't know. It's great. And I heard FromSoft is already well underway on their next game, which is really exciting. I'm anticipating a Bloodborne sequel because I think there's a lot of people clamoring for that. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens.
I actually heard it was like 3 games.
Really?
Yeah. Because, I mean, they're always working on something. That's why they're crazy. I was going to do a video about it. Maybe I did. I don't remember if I actually posted it. But I was talking about, like, how From Software is basically insane because, like, the studio director said, yeah, not only working on we got, like, 2 that were in the pipeline that we're also developing. And I'm like, you guys have too much time on your hands. Like, they're always doing something. And I guess because they've gotten mastered at their craft, that's good. Because that's the same thing that that I give praise to Monolith Soft. You know, Monolith Soft has helped out with Breath of the Wild. They've also made the Xenoblade games. They have, I think they helped out with some other games on the Switch. Like, they know how to take advantage of that hardware. Something. And so From Software, it's just like, look, we've got the system down, this formula of this is how we're going to do it. We can just churn them out like this and come out with a game every year. Go ahead and do that. You know, that way you got the system down. You know how they're going to play, and maybe you do like a Sekiro or something. You just kind of change up how it works a little bit, and then it's like, okay, but it's still a From Software game, and you move on. But yeah, I'm willing to try it a little bit more because it just depends upon my mood, and I think we talked about that a little bit earlier in this podcast. Was depends upon my mood. Like, do I want to spend 5 hours on this boss fight, or do I just want to go through and just have a real quick story that's done in like 10 hours, and I go on to the next thing? It's going to depend upon my mood. But I might actually be willing to try it because I'm opening up a lot more as I've gotten older, and again, I've got more time to play games. And
maybe I'll play Xenoblade, right? And you play Elden Ring, and that'll be completely new avenues for both of us. and we could come on here and talk about how we're feeling about our experiences.
And then if I ever get stuck, I'll just invite you. I'll just be like, come beat this thing for me.
Yes. And how fun would that be?
Yeah, because I mean that's something that I didn't. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't really get to the whole online thing was because by the time I was getting into the online thing, I didn't really have any Xbox friends. I didn't have anything like that. So when everybody else was doing the big like, oh, the Xbox Two, the Halo 2 on the Xbox, and you got to get on and play, and the 360 Halo 3 and all that stuff like that. I wasn't really into online. Like
Right.
the most that I did online, I don't know why I did quotations because it was technically online, except I had to go through DSL dial-up. Was on the Dreamcast with Phantasy Star Online, which was fun, but that was the kind of game that you could have also basically do 100% by yourself. And the only reason why was basically just to like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this level with a squad this time. We're gonna get 3 other players and we're gonna play together, and that's it. And even when I did 2, I felt like I was doing the whole thing by myself. I had 3 other people, but they were going over here doing objective. I'm doing that and the other, and doing this thing on the side. And they're over here like doing this other stuff. Like I'm basically just playing this game by myself.
Does Xenoblade have a multiplayer aspect or no?
That I think that the idea of are we still connected? I thought I saw this disconnect.
Yeah, we lost each other for a second. I was asking, does Xenoblade have multiplayer? Can we play together or no? Is that not a possibility?
Not with the current iteration. I will say that Xenoblade Chronicles X did something like that, where you could find like random people's NPCs standing there, and you could ask them to join. I did that a couple of times, and it has something like I don't know if you saw what Zombie U did, and it's kind of something similar to I guess what where people could like leave messages, and so you would see someone leave a message or whatever. You could join them, and you could join squads and sort of play together. But 2 and 3 don't have. I think that should be their next step, though. I think that for whatever they're going to do for the next trilogy, they should have some kind of thing to where maybe you have your regular squad of people that are the NPCs of the game and you follow the story. But then maybe you can jump into another squad of 2 or 3 random players or 2 or 3 of your friends or whatever, and you just go and you just like, we're just going to go find those level 100 monsters and we're going to defeat them. Like, something like that. Because it's a fun experience. I like doing stuff like that with Phantasy Star Online. And even with something like Halo, because even with Halo, when I did Halo Infinite, when I would win, I felt like we won because the squad was good. And I felt like when we lost because the other squad was better. It wasn't this one thing where it's like, I'm carrying this whole team kind of thing. It wasn't anything like that. So yeah, it's really just going to depend upon the game, but I will put that on the back burner. I won't say I'm going to definitively play Elden Ring. Maybe because I still have that stigma from the old From Software games, but I will consider giving it a shot because again, giving Final Fantasy another shot after 12 or 11 or whatever it was. I don't know which one had lightning and it was the last one that I played. So I'm giving it a shot again. So
sounds good. What else do we got, man?
If you want to talk about it, it's completely up to you. I had we talked about Game Pass a little bit, and I'm still seeing that we're getting like games of gold announced. Like, here's your games of gold for whatever month. Is that really even something that should be around anymore? Um, I think that with Game Pass being the deal that it is, and they've even done they did this with PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now, bind them to make one service. I think they should just combine them. Just make the games of gold stuff still be there. You still get your discounts on games. You still whatever rewards they want to give you, but you also get the games included. And rather than just be like, hey, and in addition to these Game Pass games, these three or four free ones, just throw them in the Game Pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been excited about an Xbox games with gold game in I can't tell you the last time I gave a crap. But I will tell you that if they made them good games, then I'm on board and I say keep it. But for Xbox, for Microsoft, get rid of Xbox, get rid of games with gold, and like you said, put them in Game Pass. Now with PlayStation, I feel like I'm getting very good games for free.
Yeah.
And I would prefer them to keep that model where I get those PlayStation Plus free games that I could keep forever and don't have to have the subscription for, because I've gotten, I mean, I just feel like I've gotten so much out of it. AAA quality games, right? So it's like, I don't feel like we get AAA games on games with gold anymore. Ever since Game Pass became the juggernaut that it is, they really stopped giving us those good games. I mean, I remember a day when I got Dishonored on Xbox games with gold. But that's a time past for Microsoft. So I think Microsoft would be better suited just getting rid of that. Who cares? Let's move into the future. Throw those games on Game Pass, and you're good to go.
I mean, they're already doing it if you think about it. I mean, every single game that's coming out is basically Game Pass day one. And like you were talking about with Dishonored, all the Dishonoreds are on Game Pass. You can get the Definitive Edition, you can get the original game, and you can get two. So it's like, why do I need to go through Game Pass for that? But sorry, I keep confusing them because I'm just so used to considering Game Pass being Xbox that I forget about games with gold, which means that it's irrelevant because it's like how it's kind of like how PlayStation Plus was. When I was doing Now, I didn't really care what games you gave me with PlayStation because I'm not going to download them. But on PlayStation Now, they had God of War for a limited amount of time. They had Hollow Knight time. They had Infamous Second Son, which, Sucker Punch, you need to come out with another Infamous. Quit making whatever stupid games you're making. Make it Infamous.
Whoa, Ghost of Tsushima, man.
Well, nothing wrong with Ghost of Tsushima, but, Infamous. Like, let's do something.
I think if we put up a poll, I think Ghost of Tsushima would be, I think it would win out over Infamous as far as just how excited people are. You don't think so?
The saying is like, look, there's nothing Tsushima. In fact, I'm actually wanting to play it. The more I keep hearing about it, and now that it's on PlayStation Plus, very tempted to try it. But would I want Ghost of Tsushima 2? It's going to be a lot of the same stuff probably. Or do I want to see a new and Infamous for the PS5?
I could see that. I could see wanting an Infamous now and then a Ghost of Tsushima later. I think Ghost of Tsushima is too recent to have a sequel.
Yeah.
I think sequels should be really expanded, improved, advanced versions of that series. They shouldn't be these yearly or bi-yearly just incremental updates. That's what Assassin's Creed became, and that's why I haven't bought it in so long, because I didn't touch Valhalla because I bought Odyssey, but I didn't buy Origins. What is the last one I played? Syndicate, maybe, and then so I'm just like, I like a little more breath between my sequels, so I think that is. I would like to see an Infamous by Sucker Punch to see how it would look.
Because like okay, the first Infamous games they were good. Um, but then with like Second Son, they used the PS4's capability to like have gyro or whatever the whole, and he did spray painting stuff, and he did some interesting stuff with it. I would love to see what they would come up with, like, hey, you can do this with the microphone, or you can do something creative with it. I think it would be interesting, definitely. And like you said, sequels definitely need to be spanned out because by the time we get to the next Elder Scrolls game, it might be another 4 or 5 years, but it's going to feel like such a change because I don't know how long it was between Oblivion and Skyrim, but it didn't feel like it was very long. And Skyrim, it did do stuff different with the story and with dragons, but it was still a lot of how Oblivion played. I feel like the next Elder Scrolls game is going to be different. It's going to do something that's similar because it's going to still be high fantasy and still going to have the same world. But I think it's going to do something completely new and unique, which is what I want to see. Because again, they've had time to develop it. They've done Starfield, they've done some Fallout games, they've done some stuff in between, but they've had time to really hone in on Elder Scrolls to where you want to get excited about it. You don't want to just feel like, oh man, it's another Elder Scrolls game.
We might be looking at the next Elder Scrolls on a next gen.
Maybe.
Next gen, PS6 gen, which is incredible considering it launched on PS3 and 360, right? I mean, they've already skipped an entire generation. So if they don't get it out during this gen, we're talking, I would like to see one game in a series like that every gen. I'd love to see, okay, we've got our Xbox version, which is Morrowind. We got our 360 version, which was Oblivion. Maybe put Skyrim on Xbox One version, that gen. I don't know what the gens are, Gen 7. And then Gen 8, we get our Elder Scrolls 6. I think Oblivion and Skyrim were the same gen, weren't they?
They were, but see, that's the way that I did it. I have Morrowind on Xbox. I have Oblivion on my 360, and then I decided to wait because they were coming up with all that DLC or whatever, and I got the Ultimate Edition or whatever that includes all the DLC on Xbox One. So that way I feel like, okay, the Xbox One is dedicated strictly to Skyrim.
Right.
But yes, on the 360 you did have Oblivion and you also had Skyrim.
Right. So we're looking at least a generation gap between Skyrim and, it was 2011, I believe. November 11th, 2011. 11/11/11, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe November 6th, I don't know. I just know it was 11/11, right? So...
Yeah, but that says something. That means that's been well over 10 years, and we still have not gotten the next one. We keep getting Skyrim again and again.
Yeah. I'm ready.
And then, but by the time it comes out, how far into this ecosystem are we going to be with Bethesda? Is it going to be an Xbox exclusive? Would they even still even let it come out for other generations? Because we've kind of talked about how, it's beneficial for Microsoft to still release it in other generations, but would they want to take something that's big like that? Because, it's one thing to say, it's Minecraft. We get a portion of the revenue from the DLC or any microtransactions that you spend. That's fine. But if it's going to be a strictly offline, 100% single-player game, would they want to hold on to that?
Right.
Because as far as I know, we got, Starfield is not announced on anything else that I know of except for only Xbox. So, is that going to be that kind of deal where Elder Scrolls 6 becomes whatever the next Xbox is called? I don't know. The naming convention makes it so hard to just say Xbox 4, but we'll just say Xbox 4 for the sake of it. probably going to be there. It might be, it might even be a day one like announced launch game for it. Like this is the console, and you get a new Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it's actually Xbox 5, right? I think it'd be the next console is going to be
Yeah,
the fifth gen of Xbox.
yeah, because that Xbox One threw me through a loop because it's like you call it the one, but it was your third system. So and then the series would be the fourth. So you're right, it would be fine. If only there was some way to number them to make it so much.
I know. If only you didn't call it the Xbox One.
Yeah, I really was surprised that they did that. I thought they were gonna just keep the circle name, like you had 360, then maybe like Xbox Loop or Xbox, I don't know. So, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it's called an Xbox, and people are gonna call it that.
It's
They
yeah,
can.
and it's in the past. It's over. That gen is gone. My Xbox One is in the closet. It doesn't get touched. I've got a Series X and a Series S. So, you know, good riddance to that terrible. I don't know. It was a good generation. I had some of my most fun on my Xbox One, I will admit. So I'm not going to crap on it too much, but just having the Series X and the PS5 just it's like god, that is just, with the SSDs, the load times, the resolution, the frame rates, I don't know how I even existed playing an Xbox One or whatever.
Well, I don't know. I would say I had more fun. I definitely had more fun on the 360. There was a lot of great games that came out on the 360, and I like the Xbox One because you could play those 360 games. So, the PS4 had, of course, more exclusives, and the Wii U at the time had some great games too. So I think that out of that generation, it was my least played for sure. And especially if I go back and look at the physical games that I have for them, it's definitely my least played. But it was still a good generation for what it did.
Yeah.
And even now, the Series X, it technically is my least touched console. But when I touch it, when I play it, I give it plenty of attention. Like it's the only thing that I play for a while. And then whenever the next game comes out, like um, Bayonetta or Ragnarok, that's going to get my attention for probably a month or two, and I'm just going to circle around. So it's fine. Um, and now that we got SSDs and stuff like that, man, I'm just kind of thinking like gaming is going to be interesting going forward. We're going to have really fast load times. Cloud gaming is going to make stuff way more accessible because, like they talked about, they're going to do all this stuff with cloud gaming with like Skyfield and stuff. I think that they'll be able to come out with less powerful hardware, like something like a Series S, for example. That's just like it gets by, and then they can use the cloud to boost it to make it a 4K image, to make it 120 frames a second, because then the system itself doesn't have to be a big, meaty piece of hardware because most of the game is on the internet anyway, and that's what most of the processing does. So it really just needs to be a very capable bare bones system because that's what these sticks do. You go and get
Right.
like a fire stick or whatever. You go in there and you run Netflix, but Netflix is not physically on there. The app's on there, but it gets all that information from the cloud, and then what are you able to do with Netflix? You're able to watch stuff in 4K. You're able to watch stuff with HDR. You're able to do all this. It
The
doesn't have to be. It
dude,
doesn't have to be a.
yeah,
Yeah.
the amount of content we have available through streaming is insane. It's only a matter of time before speeds are fast enough to allow that content to be, you know, video games. And we're there. We're there in many ways. I've been playing PlayStation now. It's a good experience. Not a lot of lag. Been playing a little bit of Ratchet and Clank because I love those games. So
Mhm.
it's only a matter of time before it's good enough to play me Last of Us Part 1 4K 60 with ray tracing. You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time. I wonder how long it'll take to get there.
I'm not 100% sure, only because there's just some parts of the world that are still um, restricted like that. You know, unfortunately, that's not here in this house, but I did live in a house before in this same area. It unfortunately didn't even have 1 megabit of speed. It was like 175 kilobits a second or something. It was ridiculous. And trying to download DLC or download an update for a game took hours. I had to let it sit overnight. Um, when I was doing YouTube, I'd have to let the video sit and upload overnight. When um, when we wanted to watch a TV show, we'd have to pause it for 30 minutes and then let it play, because if we played it from the beginning, it would stutter every 7 to 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. So I think until we're in a world where everybody has fast enough internet to be able to handle it, be able to handle something like an xCloud, or to be able to just handle like streaming directly from a server, which is what I think they wanted to do with Stadia. And my understanding is that Stadia Play is really good. It has a really good server. They just didn't launch it right.
Right.
But I think if it's launched right and you got strong enough servers and strong enough internet, it's going to be great, because then everything, like you said, you can essentially have old hardware. You can have something like, I don't know, because I mean, technically the Xbox One and PS4 are still able to do quite a bit of stuff, even though how old they are. Because I think people are just taking advantage of little technology tricks. You could technically have an old phone and still be able to play stuff like you got a new, whatever. I think it's going to be good. I think it'd be interesting to see when that comes about.
Yeah, it's definitely the future, and I just hope it's good enough. I don't want to see it become the future and we take a step back. So I don't want to see the next generation of gaming become fully cloud based, but there's not really any progress being made graphically or experience, right? Or scope of games.
Yeah.
So I think for us to get there, it needs to feel like a serious jump. Or have we reached where we need to go? Do we
Oh,
need better graphics?
yeah. I was going to actually ask that, because I don't know. For me, games still look impressive. I'm not going to lie. Um, but I feel like we peaked around the PS3, PS4 era. You know, because just look at stuff like, one of my favorite games that came out on the PS4, Detroit Become Human. Exceptionally well looking game. Like
Gorgeous.
it looks good, and that's a PS4. You know,
It's
could they
argue
do?
it arguably looks better than anything I've ever played.
And could they do any better on the PS5? Probably. They could probably, because it can load faster, it can do some stuff. It might be able to do some stuff, some shadow. It might be able to do some stuff with some light tricks here and there to make the environment look better. But are the characters going to look any better? Maybe not. Maybe so. So then, when it gets to a point, even if they can make it better, like let's say the PS6 is, just marginally better looking than the PS5 as an example, what else could they do to make it advantageous for them? Probably cloud gaming. Have the SSD and the cloud work together to do all this processing in the background. Basically, 90% of the game's already loaded to the zero load times. You just go wherever you want. You can basically put on binoculars and see the other side of the world. Like, just that's what I think it is. It's basically just making stuff load and run better. Because I think that we're getting to a point games are looking as good as they can.
Yeah, I agree. What more do we need? Playing this Last of Us Part 1, what more do I possibly need? I mean, the immersion is just unreal. It looks incredible. But I will tell you a story. I remember launching Mass Effect 1 up for the first time and seeing the graphics and thinking to myself, holy cow, how could it possibly get better? Like, how could we possibly get better? Why would we need to get better? I remember seeing the lighting, and then now I could go and play that on my 360 and think, this looks like crap. So maybe it's just the reality that we're in this generation now, and maybe 10 years from now, we're going to look back on this gen and say, did we really think that looked good? You know?
Yeah, because even as you said that, it instantly popped in my head of Xenoblade. I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but it's a good example. 2 was a launch game on the Switch, and it looked good at the time. And it looked good when I played it. I thought it looked good when we played it. But just seeing what they've been able to accomplish with 3 and the amount of, just the boundaries that they've been able to push with how the environment looks, how much faster I think it can load. And, this is still running on a Switch. This is the same Switch, the same hardware. And they've done so much better with it that, exactly, by the time we get, year 4, year 5, year 6, how long this console generation is going to be, are we going to be able to look back and see those games that are running on PS5 then, and then look back at what we're playing now and go, I really thought that.
Right, yeah.
So, who knows?
Very interesting. I mean, if you look at Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is leveraging the power of the cloud, it really is almost photorealistic. It's to the point of incredible levels of detail and lighting and stuff like that. So to go circle back to cloud gaming with the graphics, I think cloud gaming, in addition to some hardware, like you said, is the way to go, because that's what Microsoft Flight Simulator is doing. It's using the power of your PC, but it's also leveraging the cloud, and it's just making everything look basically better than anything has ever looked, right? So that's the future. I think we're going to have a half step towards cloud gaming. I think we're going to have what you're talking about. We're going to have another gen, and it's going to be a powerhouse console, and then it's going to leverage the cloud. And then I believe 10, 15 years from now, we're going to go full cloud-based. So I think that's the future. I think the future is a PS6 and then a PlayStation app that's fully cloud-based 15 years from now. And
so the 6.5, the next console generation, I wouldn't be surprised at the end, because, well, not the end for gaming, it's the end for beefy hardware, like what used to have to do with the PS3 was it's got Blu-ray and it's got all this in it. And because even with the Switch, it's a very limited system, but they're able to really get down to the metal with that and really make it look good. So if they just go a little bit of a step up, they can make it on something that's this big. So, and even if you look back a couple of years, the idea of having a game system that did not have a disc slot at all was just silly. Of course it's going to have a disc slot. What's it going to read games from? But now, it started with the Xbox One with the all digital edition, and then where do we get launched this console generation? Both systems have a discless version that is focusing more on digital and the SSD to process it.
This is absolutely the final disk drive generation. I guarantee it. There will never be another disc on a console again. There's no reason to. Physical media is dead. I mean, go to Best Buy and try to look for a 4K movie. They've got basically one kiosk. They got one stand of movies now, whereas it used to be an entire wall and 7 aisles. Now it's just one little square with all the newest releases. You want to buy your physical media? You're going to go onto Amazon, or you're going to go online or order it directly from the studio, right? So I'm a big 4K movie guy. I'm really into 4K movies and restoration and stuff like that, and there's a lot of fear in that world that physical media is dying. So,
well, I think it is, because if you think about it, other than a few things here and there, Best Buy is a perfect example. Last time we went to a Best Buy, the whole section that is their appliances now. I mean, the smart appliances. They've got screens on them and stuff. Get apps and stuff. But that whole section of that Best Buy used to be music CD.
Right.
Now you have Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. You have so many apps that do music. You don't need a CD anymore.
Yeah.
And what you just talked about, Netflix, Hulu, all these digital services, you don't have to go to a theater anymore. I basically put up my DVDs in a box in a closet, and I haven't touched it. I'm not going to be buying any more DVDs anymore. No point. And what are we slowly getting rid of now? Physical games. They're slowly starting to go. They're slowly going. I still, which is sad because I'm a collector, being able to like have a and see this is what I physically own. It's mine. I bought. But when you've got games like Valhalla, they only have like 1 gigabyte on the disc, and the rest of the game is downloaded. Then you might as well just. I've gotten to a point now to I only own one Xbox Series X game, and I really haven't bought it. It came to Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it's getting to it down to it's like why did it, I mean I know the reason why I bought the X because it had the more teraflops in it for better processing. That's why I got it. But I keep looking at that disc slot on it, and I'm like, you are really the most useless thing on this whole console. Everything else on it I can use. I can use the USB for mouse. I can slot in the back to drive. I can do. I really don't need the disc. I really don't need the disc drive.
Yeah.
So, and the Switch is actually the thing that I own the most physical media for because it's still one of the last systems that the game is all on the cartridge for now. But they made the slot so small that I wouldn't be surprised if the next iteration, that slot's just gone. And it's like, here's a digital Switch. Here's a next Nintendo console is all digital. Right. So, because I think it's going away, and it's so weird. For as long as I've been gaming since the '80s, as my logo says, since the NES days, owned every Nintendo console. They're still in my storage. To sort of see how we went from cartridges to discs to DVDs to Blu-rays to basically nothing. So
yeah.
it's interesting. Same thing with music. Records, then cassettes, then tapes, and then nothing. Tapes and CDs, then nothing. So it's in a few years, especially if you go back to what we were talking about the last rewind, and we're basically just living in headsets that access the cloud and have photorealism to them. We could basically just be walking outside from our living room, and everything's just going to be like you and I right now. I would look like the real me right in front of you. Like that would be that. There wouldn't be any digital. There wouldn't be any screen. There wouldn't be any of that. There would just be I'm right here in front of you as almost a hologram, but I'm here.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
It's crazy to think about. So did you have any last thing that you want to talk about? Any final thought?
No, I think we've covered it, man. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. How about yourself?
You know me, man. I always enjoy this. I'm hoping that people that go back and watch this now, that they love the new format that we have. And if you guys enjoy it, of course, feel free to leave a thumbs up. That way we know that you've seen it. You know that you love this format and you want to continue to see it because we want to bring the absolute best for you. We talk about this all the time, especially off camera, about how we just want to have these experiences be the absolute best that they can. Like I'm looking into possibly buying a new microphone and a new camera at your suggestion, of course, just to have myself look better. Now, I don't think I have any need to look any better. You're watching me, hopefully, for my content. So it doesn't matter if I'm in a blurry 144p image, but just because that's how people are now, 60, I want to be able to look and run the best that I can for these channels. I want to be able to edit. I want to be able to do the best that we can. So that's the reason why now the podcast is every week, because I feel like this is the best content we got. Despite the fact that I think I do good Monday and Wednesday with my content, I look forward to Fridays. I think like you and I, we have the best conversations. I feel like, we think all week of, man, what we're going to talk about. And and then, like in the beginning of this podcast, we really didn't have anything planned. We just kind of shot the breeze for a little bit.
Right.
It's the best. And then what do? We kill like an hour and a half easy.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's a good time, and hopefully people that watch feel that, just the how genuine it is, and how we're just having a conversation, and they could relate to us, and hopefully us having a good time leads to them having some good time, and thinking about things differently than maybe they're hearing other people talking about them, and we have unique perspectives. So yeah, it's fun, and I look forward to it.
I think that's the main thing that I try to do, is just to bring a different perspective, because there's a lot of negativity out there. I've seen some particular YouTubers that focus more on negativity. That works for their channel. That's what gets them views, whatever. I try to be positive. This game may stink, but you know what? Somewhere deep down inside, it's not half bad. So I try to be positive with stuff, because if all we focus on is the negative, then that's all we see. So not only do I try to stay positive, but hopefully I bring a unique spin to stuff. And like you said, maybe we change people's minds. I think I actually read that in a comment somewhere one time, that I actually changed somebody's mind on how they thought on something. I don't recall the video, and I apologize for that. But I think I read that somewhere. It may not even been my video. But the perspective that I gave in the comments was like, you changed my thinking or something. So I don't know. But that's what I strive for. I'm not trying to, garner myself with big flashy stuff and change my channel all the time. And, look at me over here. I got all this stuff in the background, and I got neon lines and, big fancy music and stuff. I'm just me. I sit in front of a camera, I share my thoughts, and I upload it. And I try to do as little editing as possible, because I feel like that's how I am. I feel like I just need to come to you uncensored. Don't worry about editing. I'll edit out some weird stuff here and there. If something goes wrong with the camera, goes fuzzy, I might record it again. But I try to go and do it all like this. But I hope that you guys did enjoy this. Feel free, of course. I got this crazy idea. I'm probably going to regret this. If you guys have any ideas, future topics you want us to talk about, put it down in the comments down below. We can look over them, and then we can decide, yeah, let's talk about this. We had so-and-so last week suggest this. Let's go ahead and talk about that now. And we just do that. Of course, you're always welcome to subscribe to this channel. And whenever he's got his channel up, you can always subscribe to his channel too. Do you want to go ahead and tell them about that? Do you have any progress?
I'm getting close. I was going to start tomorrow my first live stream with a live review of the WWE pay-per-view. I found out that it's happening while I'm working. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch it or review it. However, I may start Sunday night. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and leave a link to my channel in the comments of this video. That way anybody could find it.
Actually, if you want to, just leave it in the description. Way, anybody that watches this, they just go down to the description. They below, they got it right there.
Perfect.
And then they're always welcome to check you out. And if you guys want to, I don't normally put this kind of stuff on there, but I might start leaving my social media, so you guys can follow me on like Discord or on Twitter. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mike's content when it comes out. I think it's going to be great. And, I think he's going to focus more on live streaming than I do. I like doing the pre-recorded stuff, because I'm just in control of that. If I don't like it, I do another take, or, I edit it out or something. And I just like being in control of that. I think live is a little bit of a crazy thing, because, if something would happen right now, like a storm comes through and a branch just comes through my window, you're just going to see that, and it's like, but, at least I could edit that out.
Yeah, my thing is I want to go live because it's more reaction, right? It's gonna be, oh, we all just finished watching WWE Raw. You're done watching WWE Raw. You could jump over to my channel and get my reactions and thoughts on the show. I'll break down the matches, what happened, break down the promos, break down the night basically, and have a good time. And if people come in the chat and want to talk about their opinions on the show that night, and I could, riff off of them, and it'll be fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, I'm gonna have to see how this video comes out. I'm gonna pay attention to the views. I'm gonna pay attention. I'm probably maybe tomorrow before work or something, and see just how the video quality comes out. And if I feel like maybe one night we'll test a see how. But if that's the case, then yeah, this might just go live on YouTube, so that way people
might as well.
Can jump in. They can leave, of course, like what I was talking about in the comments. They can just leave ideas of like, hey, did you guys see this, that, and we can banter with one another. But the thing is, again, I'm not quite there yet. I feel like we have to just be a little bit better, and maybe just have a few more subscribers. Just because I don't want to have one person sitting there all by himself. But looking better, I've seen the template that you have sent me. I think that's going to be great. I hear that, we are looking very good right now. So I am thinking that this is going to be good. Your live stream is going to be good. Hopefully. And we will make this work somehow. Even if we got 5 people that watch us, I don't care. I'm just, those 5 people. Because, trust me, I follow quite a few channels. I have quite a few channels. But there's really only 2 YouTubers that I gave. Because they are the ones that I know. They're going to be positive. They're going to have an opinion that I like. And they make a ton of sense. And then there's others that every now and then they make semi-decent topic. And it's like, okay, I'll watch them. But that's really what I hope that somebody is out there, that somebody finds you entertaining, watches your stuff all the time, and they just become huge fans.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I think we've dragged this out quite a bit because we do the same thing every week. We talk about how. But I really do want to say that I am really proud. Okay, not ever think when I first started doing YouTube that this was going to be where it was going to go, because I always thought, no, I'm just going to do content. But as I'm doing more and more, I'm really starting to really dig it, because there's just so much that you can do on the fly, like what we're talking about, where we could modify it to where we're watching a video or something. Like it's going to be really neat.
I think you'll be excited with what I had going on while we were talking. It'll be a little bit of a surprise. So everyone, he doesn't know quite yet what this video is going to look like. So it'll be fun. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah, because this is actually the first time that the live stream's kind of out of my hands. Because before we just did it, and I had you side by side on like a Skype call or whatever, and I would just play because that's all I knew how to do at the time. I couldn't figure out how to get just side by side like how I wanted, and but this is the first time that, because before I could see it, so if you had a little bit of a like I think earlier you said that we disconnected or whatever, that would be the kind of thing that I could see, and I could just pause it real quick. I could pause the recording, and then when you came back, this is the first time where it's completely 100%. We're recording. I don't know what's going on, and if I lagged or if my sound has gone in and out, I don't know. So
there has been some lag, a couple pauses, a couple dips in audio, but I'd say 96% of this has been clean and smooth, and it's going to be perfect. And I think I did the pausing in a good way where you were, right when you came back, I was able to get it back and going. So, yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I got a really old laptop that I'm using, but I'm also going to try something. I'm going to go off and get myself a really long Ethernet, and I'm basically going to run from the router that's in my bedroom. I'm going to run it all the way out here and see if maybe that helps it, because then it's got a more solid connection. And I don't know if it's maybe the Wi-Fi. I'm just going to play around with various different plugged in directly to Ethernet. It's going to have a strong, powerful connection, and it's not going to lag anymore. To where we can again,
yeah.
I think because in that way we'll have one strong, consistent live feed, so I don't have to worry about we've gone live on stuttered out or something. So that's what I'm hoping for. But of course, any suggestions that you guys have can always comments down below, and feel free to follow both of us. I think that we're going to bring you great content in the future. If we do get a Nintendo Direct, I'm going to take some really good notes, and you're always welcome to follow me after that, because I think I'm going to leave some pretty unique opinions, because I have an idea, but I don't want to share it, because if what I think they're going to if what I think they're going to do in that Direct happens, I think it's going to be interesting. But anyways, we'll see. I've kind of talked about what I want to see from Zelda before. And then just from you in the future, because I know that I'm working on some different things, like a fan theory kind of thing, where I got this movie, or my top picks or whatever, my discussion videos. Outside of live feeds, do you think that there's anything that they expect from you, or it's gonna be 100% live and people should follow you after those main events?
I think it's going to be pretty much 100% live streaming reactions and reviews of the pay-per-views and Monday Night Raw, AEW Dynamite, and right now that's probably going to be it. Monday Night Raw, AEW Dynamite. I might go to Friday Night SmackDown. I know we do these on Friday nights. We might move these to Thursdays. I know you're open on Thursdays. That'll give me the opportunity to do all 3 nights of wrestling, so that's something that I'm going to explore, and maybe I'll move into doing news and pre-recorded videos about breaking news. Maybe some superstars are injured, or they've been signed with a different company, or there's just backstage news and rumors, and I'm thinking I'll do some occasional videos about that as well. But I really want to get started with the live streams and the reactions and the reviews to those shows. I think there's a lot of excitement right when the show ends, and people don't want their wrestling content to be over when Raw goes off the air. They want to hear someone talk about it. They want to engage with wrestling content more. So that's going to kind of be my my thing to start.
That's 100% fine, man. Because I remember some of the best parts when I used to go to the theater all the time with my friends. The best part always came at the end, because then we would leave about for hours.
Yes,
exactly. I remember after seeing Avengers for the first time, we literally went back to my house, and all we could talk about was just Thanos this, and did you say and it's just everything. It's what is this going to do for Marvel? And it's just so much discussion for just the rest of the day. And so I get it, because one of the YouTubers that I follow, he does live streams of all the events. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes it ruins it. So when I'm really try to check out a trailer or whatever, and they're excited and they're talking over and they're getting screaming, yeah, I share your enthusiasm, but I'm trying to watch the trailer. so sometimes it's best to do it after the fact.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the reason why I do pre-recorded, is just because after the fact, I've got my notes. I can take a couple of hours to think about it, and then I'm going to share my thoughts. Because sometimes I feel like I get so lost in my thoughts. I got so many thoughts going on in my ADHD brain that it's just okay, get on one train right now. So, but that's going to be it for us, guys. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I'm sure I've kept you long enough. You guys have. And I'm going to really look forward to seeing how this turns out. And hopefully we'll get some good traffic from this. Guys, feel free to join us again next week for the Retro Rewind, when we talk about whatever the heck's going on next week. We don't know. But it's going to be a good time either way. Hopefully you'll join us. And I'll see you next time.
See you guys.